Right, so what is going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel in this week's video. Today, as you can tell by the title, I've got a back training video. I'm going to go through my current back workout, take you through a few little tips and execution techniques that I use for my personal back workout, but also to help better your understanding of how you train your back. So whether that be your upper back and what movements, what elbow paths, what form to adopt when training your upper back compared to your lats, and how to differentiate between the two, how to identify which exercises invoke which part of your back to be working. So I'm not going to talk too much on this now. I'm going to wait until we get into the actual video so I can show you as well as tell you. So without further ado, we're going to get cracking with it. So starting off with pull-ups, I start my workouts with pull-ups, get a nice pump. It's a good warm-up exercise like the pec deck for chest. So I started off with weighted and it went down to body weight and then finished with banded at the end, as you can see from the video here, using the band to help increase the time spent in the eccentric without taking away from the amount of reps that I can get. So as I may not be able to get as many reps on body weight because I've done a few sets of body weight prior to this, finishing off the movement with the banded. So a pull-up will either work the upper back or the lats, depending on how you execute it. As you can see from the start, I keep a strict regimented form. I pull with my elbows and not my wrists and keep my elbows in a tucked fashion. Keeping it tucked will encourage the lats to contribute to the movement. As you tire and begin to tilt upwards, your elbows will start to flare. This will then bring your upper back into play and start to use your upper back and take away from your lats. So like with a regular lat pull down, if you pull down into, you're working your teres and your upper back, whereas if you keep your elbows tucked and pull in front of you like this, you'll be working your lat. So as you can see from the final set, I started off more tucked, and as I started to struggle, I let my elbows flare out a little bit to use more of my back and to get those last few reps to give a better all-round warm up to my back before we get into our next exercise, which is deadlift. So I started off with 60 kilos for one plate for 20 reps, which I'm programmed to do. Help to open up the hip flexors, warm up the erectors, all those muscles that contribute to the movement, which may cause an injury if you grip and rip before you've warmed up properly. And then went up a plate at a time, so 1, 2, 3, 4 plates, with the 2 to 4 plates being 4 reps, just to feed into my top set here, which is 205 kilos. So you've got 4.5 plates with the 2.5s on the end. My rep range is 4 to 6, so I've got 6 here. So I will be moving up to 210 as of next week. So that's my progressive overload style of training. So the deadlift itself isn't really a movement that targets a specific area of the back. It's more of a whole body exercise. So obviously I'm driving off the floor with my quads. I'm pulling back with my erectors, my lower back, my hamstrings, my glutes, my whole lower body, as well as my upper back and traps, especially to lock out the top of the movement you'll be working. If you are feeling it in your lats, you might need to take a step back and work on your form and definitely change your setup in a way that will incorporate the other muscles I just mentioned and not the lats, because that is an injury waiting to happen. Last thing you want to do is tear your lat doing an exercise that shouldn't be targeting your lat in the first place. So as you can see here, I'm playing around with the different grips. I started off with my elbows flared out, pronated grip at the top, driving upwards using my upper back. And then as I put it back and changed my grip to a neutral grip with my elbows tucked, as you can see me doing my best chicken impression, driving into the hip. This is gonna work your lats more rather than out here, upper back, in here for lats. So that's telling of a good way to gauge what you're working. If your elbows are up high and flared, you're more likely going to be working your upper back, and as your elbows come closer to the body and tuck closer to your hip, that is going to more designated to the lats. If you think of it as an elbow continuum, elbow spectrum, the further your elbows come away from your body, the more your upper back is going to be recruited, and the closer your elbows tucked to your waist and your hip, that is going to mean the exercise is more designated to the lats. So as you can see, I'm using the top, working my upper back for this T-bar row, making sure to extend my thoracic spine and almost roll over at peak eccentric to get more into that length and range and increase my range of motion, which is ultimately going to recruit and provide stimulus for my upper back more so than if I didn't do this, and therefore I'll reap more growth and more stimulus as a result, which will lead to gains, which is the aim of the training. On the other end of the spectrum, I'm back in a neutral grip here, leaning further forward over the machine so that my elbow is better aligned to the hip. This means that because I'm in a fixed position, where I position my body is going to determine where I'm working. If I'm standing further back and I'm rowing up here at chest height, I'm not going to be working my lower lats, I'm going to be working my bicep also higher up the back. Not only am I bent over more, which is going to allow me to drive lower down my back than if I was up here driving up into with my traps. I'm coming like this, getting over the machine and then standing forward, so I'm not only over the machine to encourage my lower lats and to encourage the stimulus lower down the back, but I'm also standing forwards to really emphasize where I want to be working. Leant over, the more you bend over in your row, the lower down your back you'll be working. If you're standing upright, you're going to be doing a shrug, which is working your traps. If you bend over a little bit, you're going to be working more of your upper back and your rhomboids. If you bend over almost 45 degrees, you're going to start to work your mid back and lower down into the lats if you keep your elbows tucked. And then the closer you get to horizontal, that's when you're going to get deeper into the lats and really target the lats more than your upper back. So as you can see here, I'm not dead horizontal, but I'm a lot closer to horizontal than 45 degrees, as I'm really trying to encourage the work to be done lower down the lat for this exercise. This dumbbell row, which you can flare out, it's just to get the last bit out of my top set, I'm still going to be hitting the same movement pattern, rather than if I was struggling on a dumbbell and I shrugged it up, my elbow could flare out. It can't flare out on this because the machine is in a fixed position. Quick tip for this: you want to put your body weight and lean over onto the side that you're working so you can keep that side of your body fixed, braced, which obviously will give you more stability and safety, as well as being able to connect mentally to that part of the body and get more out of the training. So moving on to another seated row, chest supported row. As you can see from the first bit, I'm driving back with the seat lower, really putting the emphasis on my upper back, which is what this machine is predominantly used for. However, for me personally, I'm working on my lats, so I've put the seat higher to position the elbow path of the grips closer to the hip than to my shoulder. Like I said before, the further down the back you go, the more you're going to work the lats. And I'm keeping my elbows tucked to encourage the lats to work more and driving into that hip. Put a little bit of weight on the top because that's where your lat is strongest. Your lat is strongest at the beginning range, and as you get to that end range, the strength profile drops off and you become weaker. So you want to put more on that. Obviously the bulk is on the mid range. This is because this machine specifically has a little drop off point towards the beginning where the machine comes like this and then it dips off a little bit to the end. So if you can play in that little dip off range, you don't need to load it as much. You can get a really good stretch there before each rep, and therefore you can load that mid range more, keep the beginning range not as loaded, although you want to load it in that strength profile, but that little dip off will make it hard to put a lot of weight on, using the profile of the machine as well as your own personal biomechanic strength profile. Finishing off with a muscle round. Muscle rounds are a great way to really finish off your muscle, finish off the lat in this. I'm using a supinated grip. Supinated grip allows you to get a lot more comfortably into that pocket. By pocket, I mean that elbow into the hip, which I've been stating over and over again in this video. Supinated grip helps to get there. Done a lot of pronated, done a neutral, and I'm going to finish with that supinated grip and lean over, crunching the lat so I can really feel it, help with that mind muscle connection like I said earlier. Driving into the lat, keep my elbow tight to my hip. That's why the straps are a great idea to help you do so, because obviously when your grip strength fails, you will start to pump in your forearm, your bicep, but with the strap you can minimize a lot of the contribution of your lower limb and just drive with your elbow and really maximize the engagement of the lat for this exercise. So it's a 6x6 here, 6 reps, take 15 seconds, 6 reps, 15 seconds, so forth, 6 total stages. What I do personally is I do the 5, and on the 6th I do a drop set, so it's 6, 15, 6, and then after I've done that 6th round, I'll take a bit of weight off and go again and drop down to a reasonably low weight and really see off the lat, get that massive pump before I go and hit my poses, which if you want to see will be on my Instagram. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. A lot more regular content. Obviously this is weekly, but on my Instagram. It's daily posts on the feed, reels, stills, all that good stuff, as well as being active on my stories as well. Get a little bit more insight into me personally, which although I try to convey as much in these videos, sometimes in a video like this where I'm just going through informative stuff, you will get more of my personality over my Instagram as well. But yeah, that is that. The workout is finished, and that means it's going to be the end of the video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, click that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. We're back to the 6 PM every Wednesday uploads, but just in case you forget, click that notification bell, get that notification when uploads, so you don't miss another video. I hope you found these tips useful. Leave a comment down below which exercise you're going to try in your next workout, or which exercises you've used and you love, or which one you didn't know about and maybe you're going to give a try. Just a couple of ending remarks to summarize what we've gone through in the video. If you're targeting your upper back, position the seat lower and having your elbows up a bit higher will encourage more stimulus onto your upper back. And like I said, on that continuum, on that spectrum of bringing your elbows down, that is going to take less of the stress off of your upper back and more of the stress onto your lats and your mid back. The elbows to hip having the most bias onto the lats, as well as putting the seat higher, moving yourself further forward, and really exaggerating that drive into the hip will get the most out of your lat training. So low seat, high elbows, upper back, higher seat, low elbows, lats. That is going to be all for this week, and I'll catch you all next week. I'm out.